Okay, I think we have some more people in the waiting room. For those that are on, thank you for being here. We're just going to give it maybe a minute or two till about 7:05, just so we give everyone the opportunity to join. Thank you everyone for attending tonight. We're super, super excited to have Dr. ABC with us. So this is the YCPIC.
You're muted.
My apologies, I was muted the whole time. So I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to our spring presentation with Dr. ABC. I'd also like to thank Mr. Dominic Sculia. He's attending as well. He's our Director of Education. Mr. Eugene Pivato, who's the Associate Director of Education. Trustees Dino Giuliani and Jennifer Wigston, as well as our senior administrative staff on the YCPIC, Andre Belil, which is the vice principal at Father Bressani. Fabio Nardo is the principal at All Saints Catholic Elementary School. And our teacher reps Vito Totino and Marilinda Lamarra. I'm not sure if they're all on, but they attend all of our YCPIC meetings, and we want to thank them for their support and even putting this together. So thanks everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. So before we start, we'll move on to some housekeeping. And just for those of you that are joining us or missed it at the beginning, this presentation will be recorded. So for those parents who didn't have the opportunity to join us this evening, it will be posted on the YCPIC page of the school board's website. So you can always visit that presentation there and even tell all your friends about it. Again, please remember to keep your mics muted. That should happen automatically, but just in case, make sure they're muted unless you're speaking. We are going to be collecting questions throughout the presentation. We ask kindly that you put any questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring those and then answering them, hopefully all of them, but probably not, during the Q&A at the very end. And as I mentioned before, the presentation will be posted on the YCPIC page of the website. And if you have any questions that are not regarding the presentation, you can always go to the YCPIC page and do a contact us and submit your question there. So we will then continue with our opening prayer this evening. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, we know you by many names, but still we are part of one human family, your family. Open our hearts and minds so that we see your reflection in the face of every person on this earth. Help us to forge bonds of compassion, dignity, and respect with every person. Guide us to fully grasp that disability and difference never lessen a person's need for love, friendship, belonging, respect, and for the opportunity to work, contribute, and lead. Let prejudice, stigma, fear, and presumptions never interfere with our ceaseless efforts to assure that each and every person is able to feel the embrace of family, community, and of God. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. The next thing is our land acknowledgement. We are gathered on the ancestral lands and waters of all Indigenous peoples who have left their footprints on Mother Earth before us. We respectfully acknowledge those who have walked on it, those who walk on it now, and future generations who have yet to walk upon it. We pray to the Creator for strength and wisdom that all may continue to serve as stewards of the earth. I want to move on now to presenting our keynote speaker for this evening, which some of you may or may not have heard about, and that's Dr. Andrew B Campbell, otherwise known as Dr. ABC. He's a graduate of U of T, and he has a PhD in educational leadership, policy, and diversity. He is also currently a faculty member in the Master of Teaching program at U of T and an adjunct assistant professor at Queen's University. He is an Ontario certified for over 25 years in, may I add, warm countries such as Jamaica, Bahamas, and Canada. He has authored 2 books, Teachable Moments with DR.ABC, A Spoonful for the Journey in 2015, and The Invisible Student in the Jamaican Classroom in 2018. And I'm just gonna open a little sidebar note here. When we're done, we're gonna be giving away one DR.ABC's Teachable Moments book. So as soon as I'm done this, we will be popping the link to a Google form for those of you that are interested. I would recommend highly grabbing this book. All you'll have to do is fill in this Google form, and eventually a book will make its way to your home. So DR.ABC's research and scholarship focuses on issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion, cultural competency, educational leadership, 2SL LGBTQ+ issues, and teacher performance evaluation. He continues to present at various peer-reviewed academic conferences across North America and the Caribbean. He is a workshop facilitator, a motivational speaker, and has delivered several keynotes. He appreciates fashion, enjoys traveling and meeting new people, and equally finds pleasure in bringing his community together to share a good meal. And on that note, I'm going to ask Dr. Campbell to tell us what his favorite meal is. And I'm going to pass it on to you, Dr. Campbell. I hope everyone enjoys the presentation.
Thank you so much, Martina. Thank you so much. You can stop sharing your screen so I can share my screen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just remember, Andrea, because I know you're in the back doing the technical stuff, that remember when you're posting, you post to everyone, because sometimes it posts only privately. So make sure you repost and post to everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much, Martina, for that. My favorite food, I should say at this point in time, is anything Asian. I love Asian cuisine. I love Vietnamese pho. I love anything Thai. I just love anything Asian. I'm very big on my Asian cuisine. So thank you so much. And funny you should ask me that, because as we get into this evening presentation, everyone, this evening we're focused on a very important topic. And the important topic is about equity, diversity, and inclusion. We're really looking at equity, diversity, and inclusion. And what I want us to focus on is that equity, inclusion, diversity begins at home. And I'm telling you, I'm excited to have the parents here with me, because I want us to understand that what's happening in out there world, so to speak, we must be having amazing conversations at home with our children. And do not leave, because I'm going to share it to you. I have for you some tips, some really workable tips that you can use. Teachers can use them too, but they are written specifically for you parents. I prepare them specifically for the parents. So I want you to know that. The next thing I want you to know is that the chat box that we are using, use it to talk back to me if you want. Ask your question, make a comment, say amen, say wow, say yes, whatever. Use the chat. It's our conversation tonight. It's our conversation. Don't feel like you're not a part of this conversation. So I love this. When I heard this topic, when I heard that they're doing this conversation and you're extending the conversation of equity, diversity, and inclusion to the parents, I said, yes, yes, yes. Here is something that we're doing right. We are on the right place, because the conversation should be had everywhere. And there are different ways to have the conversations about equity. And so as we talk in this evening, I want to say to you, equity begins at home, right? So we can learn a lot from a box of crayon. This is a way we can start. So if for those of you, your children are in kindergarten, let's start there to this afternoon, director. Let's start there this afternoon, parents and Martina. Let's start there. We literally can say, we can learn a lot from crayons. Some are sharp, some are pretty, some are dull. Some are weird, some have some weird names, some have some funny colors. We have never seen them before. Some have different colors, but they all are in the same crayon box. And that is what we talk about when we talk about inclusion. The fact that we are different people. And it's okay, imagine, to remind our students, if you look at the front part, we talk about language. ethnicity, religion, nationality, experiences, race, job level, gender, sexual orientation, age, skills, ability. All these things make us different, but all of these things are the things that make us special. They are the very thing that make the school amazing. They are the very thing that makes the parent meeting amazing right now. Right now, as I look, we have 63 people in the room. And I can tell you, we have 63 different people. And that is the beauty of us coming together. So I want us to think about that as we think about the work of diversity, equity, inclusion. Think about that as we think about the work, right? And so we want to get to that place. But before we get to anywhere else, I want to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I want to look at you, and we're going to ask each other a few questions. And as I ask the questions, I want you to just think about them. The first question I have for you, parents: what lessons are you teaching your children about others? And I know you may say, well, I don't know if I have that teach lesson intentionally, but what I want to remind us all is that teaching and learning happens automatically. The conversation you have walking down the street about the dog over there, the conversation you have in a Starbucks about that lady sitting there, the conversation you have on the plane about that person over there, the conversation you have with mom, why is that man walking like that? Dad, why is that girl in a wheelchair? These are what I'm talking about, the conversations. And I see in the chat already, thank you, Jay Keeping, respect. Thank you, Renee, kindness. What are those conversations you are having? Thank you, Tania, differences and acceptance. Lydia, I see them. What are these conversations you are having? My next question: what assumptions do we hold about others? What assumptions? My next question: what messages do we give to our children about others? You know, I like traveling, and I go on plane quite a bit, and you'll always see a parent with a child, and you can always bet that that child, if not on a device, will be the child to ask, Mom, what is that? Dad, what is that? Auntie, what is that? And sometimes I listen in, and you listen to the kind of conversations we're having. So I want you to realize these conversations that seems very matter of fact, they are very fruit bearing. They are very fruit bearing. So let me give you an example what I mean by that. A couple of years ago, back in 2001, I went to teach in the US. I was an international exchange teacher. So I was teaching in Atlanta, in the rural parts, in the outskirts of Atlanta, but it was a special program where the children were bused to school from the inner city to this really suburban area. These children were not exposed. They have never traveled. Some of these children, most of them have never been downtown Atlanta. They are very limited in their experience of others. And so when I went to the school, they were excited to have a teacher. They heard the teacher was from Jamaica. And so they were excited. They wanted to ask me questions. Many of them are racialized kids. Many of them are Black like myself. But remember, we have different experience. They're not Jamaicans. And they say, Mr. Campbell, where is your locks? Mr. Campbell, do you live in a tree? Mr. Campbell, do you swim every day? Mr. Campbell, is your favorite food fish? And what they were asking me was not anything rude or disrespectful. They were genuinely asking me about myself. But what they were coming from was a space where it was very, what we call a single story. They were coming from a space where they see these assumptions and the stereotypes, and they were acting on them. And so as a parent, we have to be careful that we are not allowing our children to have a single story of anyone. Why is that person in the wheelchair? Oh, because he can't walk. And that's your story. There's many more ways to explain that. You know, what's a refugee, Mom? Well, we see on TV, a refugee is someone, you know, what we see in some of the stereotypical pictures, they have no place to go, they live in a tent, they have a certain race, they have no food, they are hungry. That's not the truth. That is a single story. There are many kinds of people who are refugees in Canada. And there are many ways and many reasons why people become refugees. We see right now that people are going to be refugees because of war. Are we having those conversations? So we have to capture the entire story, as you said in the chat. I love the chat. I always like when you talk back to me. Don't ever think you're distracting me. You go ahead and chat back to me because I want that conversation. So that's my question. Next question, what language do we use at home when we speak of others? What do I mean by that? Is our language empowering? Is our language inclusive? Is our language respectful? Or is our language deficit? I remember I went to a school once where the population was 98% white. And I was a Black teacher on the staff. And I am an amazing teacher. That's what they say, right? I'm good at what I do. I love what I do. And one of my students, he was amazing. And he ran inside one day and we were just talking. He says, Mr. Campbell, he said, I didn't know I would love you. And then he went like this. He went like this. And I said, why? And he went like this. Because immediately he caught that he was about to say something that he shouldn't have said. And I smiled. I didn't push it. And he said, I wouldn't know I would love somebody like you. And then we talked, you know, months on top, he said to me, I have never had a Black teacher before. And then I was reminded that in that school, I am one of the first Black teachers in the school. And so he had seen difference on TV and he had a deficit identity and knowledge of difference, because maybe when he watched TV, he see a Black man, you know, locked up in a police car. Those are the images you see a lot. Or a Black person bent over in a police car, or a Black person doing something wrong or bad. And so we have to be careful. What is the language you're using when somebody is blind? Somebody is in a wheelchair. Somebody is on the autism spectrum. Somebody is a different race from us. Somebody has an accent. And I'm telling you right now, parents, it is our responsibility to remember that inclusion begins at home. These conversations must start at home. And you don't have to have the big conversations. So do not walk away thinking, well, Dr. Campbell tell us we need to go into theories and theories of belong. No, no, no. I'm talking about the simple conversation. You know what the biggest conversation is? About food. There's a story told about a parent who took her child to Ethiopia. And Ethiopia, she's from Jamaica. They went to Ethiopia for a conference. Her mom is a big presenter and they were having dinner. The child was 3 at that time. And at that time, she was waiting for a fork, but she realized there was no fork. And mom explained to her that they have to wash their hands and they use the injera. The injera, good to expose your kids to these things, the injera, to eat with their hand. And she said, wow, and they did it and they finished and they went back to their own country. And so something happened in Jamaica where she was from. And the little girl at that time, as she was 4, the teacher was so impressed, she called the parent to tell the parent that something happened at school. And the little girl spoke up and said to the other children, people are different. They have different foods, they have different clothes, they look different, they have different kinds of homes, different kinds of family, and everyone should be respected. She learned that lesson back in Ethiopia when our parent visited. So she didn't come back with a, oh, yuck, oh, nasty, ew. We see it all the time and we think it's okay until we realize that yuck, ew, nasty language goes into something else. And so we have to be careful to say it's not yucky, it's not nasty, it's different. It's a different culture. People from different parts of the world eat different things. And so your child grows with that level of respect, that level of global awareness. I teach a course right now at the University of Queen's University, one of my favorite courses to teach. Don't tell them I say so. And it's about international education, Caroline. I like to call names, all right? It's about international education. And in that course, it's my favorite course, Caroline. I'm going to tell you why. In a regular term, I have about 21 students in the class, Caroline. Of all the students, maybe 18 or 19 are teaching in international schools, but they are all Canadians. So they are Canadians doing their master's degree, but they are teaching in international schools. Why do I love that class? When they share stories, Caroline, the stories are shared, they are so amazing, they are so beautiful. Here are a bunch of Canadian teachers who are so exposed to globalization, global spaces, they get difference. And their children who they take with them to these countries, they beautiful stories. So I'm asking you parents, as we have this conversation, how are we having those conversations with our children? How do we respond to emotions? How do we respond to inequities? When you see something on the television, how do you respond to that? I'm going to tell you another story. You know I use a lot of story. I was teaching grade 6 a couple of years ago, and I was talking up to my class. I want you to listen to this carefully, parents, about the Syrian refugee crisis. Anybody remember that? I'm sure parents remember that. I was teaching grade 6 at the time, and the topic is about refugees. So we're talking. The parent came to me the next morning and she said, Mr. Campbell, wonderful parent, Carolyn. She came to me and she said, my child came home yesterday and she was very sad because of the lesson that we taught. And she asked me if I could allow her child to step out the class or go to the library when I would continue the lesson. I said to her, you know, why? She explained to me. And I turned to the parent and I said, we talked yesterday about Syrian refugee crisis. We talked about little children like her age, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They were 11 at that time, who don't get to go to school, who have lost a parent, who are sleeping in the cold, who may be hungry, who have lost even a limb because of war. And your child came home and she heard that lesson and she was sad. I said to her, Mom, your child gets an A+. I said, I wish all the children in my class responded like your child. Can I tell you what is one of the top words in the equity series when it comes to research about how we're doing? The word is empathy. That child demonstrated empathy that many of us lack. She demonstrated empathy. So when our mom turned to her and she said to her, do you want to go to the library? She said, no, Mom. And she stayed. She understood. I was so proud of her. And then she made me cry. She made me cry later on, because then I asked them to do an assignment for me, Martina. And the assignment was write a letter to the Syrian refugee camp and tell them the reason why you want, it's an imaginary letter, of course, why you want the Syrian refugee children to come to our school. We're talking about teaching our kids about love, about compassion, about respect, about inclusion, about sharing, about kindness. When I started reading the letters and I read hers, because of course, as a teacher, I was curious what's going on. I read hers, I started to cry. She said, you must come to our school. She said, we have the best grade 6 ever. And Mr. Campbell is our teacher, and he teaches dancing, and you must join our dance class. And our class, our school, we have a snack program, and you can get all kind of fresh fruit, because we have fresh fruit for snacks. And we have a beautiful computer lab. And if you don't have a computer, we will lend you one. Oh, I cried. Because right there and then, parent, I knew that the discussions we were having in that school were profitable. I knew we were teaching the rules. We were teaching the love. We were teaching the compassion we talk about. We were teaching the kindness we talk about. We were teaching the honesty we talk about. We were teaching the community we talk about. And so as we get into this discussion today, don't worry, I want us to talk about how do we have these courageous conversations? These are courageous conversations. They don't mean they have to be loud. They have to be combative. They have to have conflict. A courageous conversation is one about love. If you look at the story of Jesus, for those who don't know, to share with you, I taught for the Catholic board in the Bahamas for years. So I shared with you where I can identify with certain things. And you ask them, I would always say, what would Jesus do? That is an opener. That is a conversation starter. That is a courageous conversation to have at home. Evaluate your bias and your prejudice and your privilege. It's important to look at yourself and wonder, why do I think this way? And many of us, we grew up in certain communities, so we do have a certain kind of way of thinking. And we ask ourselves, why am I thinking this way? Unpack that. Why do I think these people are unworthy? Why do I think these people are this or these people are that? Ask yourself these questions. Identify what inequality looks like around your community. You know, I shared something, Jennifer, with a number of my teachers the other day. I want you to listen to me, parents. This is going to be a thing I want to share with you. I said to my teachers, how many missed opportunities have you had to really be an ally? And I want you to ask yourself, how many missed opportunities I have had where I could have been a better ally and I was not? You know why? Because a lot of times we ignore the discrimination, the inequities, the inequalities, the injustices we see around us. Many of us could speak up more. Many of us should know how to stand up for those who don't have a voice. We have to learn that if we want to be true allies, we have to be honest. Thank you, Lydia. I see you, Lydia, in the chat. Thank you for jumping in, Lydia. We have to learn and unlearn and relearn. Thank you, Lydia, for jumping. Remember that the chat box belongs to us parents. Jump in it anytime. I see you, Tania. As parents, we need to educate ourselves. Sometimes we need to unlearn the prejudice. Thank you. Director, you see the kind of parents we have? You see the kind of sharing? We love it. We love it. We appreciate you sharing, parents. We have to unpack our stereotypes and unconscious bias and how these perception of others impact how we see things. We have to let our children know not everybody has a beautiful house with 5 bedroom and 3-car garage, but there are also beautiful people that we need to respect. Not everybody goes on vacation in France and Italy and Europe. Not everybody has a family like ours. Not everybody has a mommy and a daddy at home. Some people only have a mom or only have a dad. Some people also have auntie who's in charge or grandma who's in charge, and they are a beautiful family just like ours. You have to be the one to say that. You have to be the one to have that conversation. So when they come to school and we talk about families, they are respectful. So what is equity? Equity. It's a condition or a state of fair, inclusive, and respectful treatment. It's simple that. Respectful treatment. Respectful treatment. Right? Of all people. Everybody deserves respect. Everybody. Even that person who begged you $1 at the Starbucks. You can say no. You can walk off. You don't have to say something nasty. That's what we're talking about. We see it happen all the time. So we want to make sure we give each person what they need, and we respect that we come from different places and we have different needs. One child may need 2 apples. One child may need 1 apple. One child may say, Miss Martina, I don't need an apple because I don't eat apple. One teacher, another child may say, Miss Jennifer, I don't want an apple because I am allergic to apple. We have to learn that equity is about not treating everybody the same. So the idea of saying everybody needs to be treated the same is not possible, because we are all not the same. We come from different experiences, we come from different backgrounds, we have different advantages, and we have to understand that. The next word is diversity. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's a conscious, I love that word, Director, the conscious acceptance, belief, recognition, and thought that differences exist. We are not all the same. It's okay. You know, you should recognize, oh, Mom, who is that gentleman on the screen? Well, it's our speaker. His name is DR.ABC, and he's a Black man, and he's from Jamaica. You hear that Jamaican accent. It's okay to share differences, to tell difference. And then you hear somebody else with a certain name, you say, oh, that person is from, it's from Spain. Oh, that person is from France. Oh, that person is from Nigeria. She has a beautiful African name. Wow, that person is from India. She has a beautiful Indian name. That is how the conversation should be happening at home, parents. The next word is inclusion. And I love this diagram so much. Shelly, I see you there. I love this diagram so much. You know, I like to call names. I love this diagram, Isabel. I love this diagram, Melanie. I see you, Stella. I see you, G Keeping. You have been there with me nonstop from the start, G Keeping. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. I love this diagram. Diversity is not we all just standing nearby, you know, anybody in their own little corner. I in my small corner and you in mine. Anybody remember that song, you know, Jesus be the shine with a pure, clear light? You in your small corner, I in mine. We don't want that. We want to really come together. We want to have a conscious interaction. We want to have a conscious interaction. So I'm going to share with you a picture. And this picture on the screen gives you an idea, because I want us to have these brave conversations about equality. And equality is giving everybody the same thing. So we see what's happening. We're trying to watch this game. I don't know what game it is. I think they say it's baseball. Whatever the game is. And we see equality there, G Keeping. Everybody gets the same thing. But if you give everybody the same thing, we realize that someone is going to be at disadvantage. So what we're trying to do is to provide with our children what they really need. And that is why at school, sometimes you have specialized programs. Sometimes we have a child who is on accommodation. I remember once, I have to share a story with you, Melanie and Isabel and Carolyn. I had a particular child at my school that I allowed him to use the computer lab during the recess, during the lunchtime, before school and after school. And another child saw that. And what that child did, he went to tell his parent that Mr. Campbell allows these particular children to use the lab, and I want to use it too. So the parent came to school to say, can my child? And I told her no. And you say, oh, but why not? Because I was making an accommodation for a particular child who had no device. This was about 8 years ago. This particular child who came to me, they had a laptop, they had a Chromebook, and they had an iPad. You do not need extra time in the computer lab. We have to be honest. And I'm telling you parents, you have to have those honest conversations with your children. Because when they get to college, where I am at, in the university, many of our children are struggling their identity. They're angry at their parents. I'm being honest. Cassandra, thank you for your sharing, Cassandra. Thank you for your question. I see it in the box. I see it in the chat. You have to have these honest questions and honest conversation with your children. And then what is the reality? The reality is we live in a world where some people have a lot of boxes Some people just have one box they could barely see, and some people have without. But here comes your job as parents. I want you to ask yourself, how can I work? How can I work as a parent to ensure there is liberation? How can I work as a parent to ensure that this diagram, the fences are removed? The fences are removed. How can I work in my corner, in my area, to share, to give? You know, the other day when we went on, let me give you a good example of that. The other day when the pandemic hit and we all rushed online, we all realized one day that we made a big mistake, because the first thing we said was, oh, school is going to be online on Monday. See you on Monday, and you are going to be online. And then over the weekend, we said, oh, not everybody had a laptop. Oh, not everybody had mic, and everybody had light, and everybody have a beautiful backdrop like Mr. Campbell, and everybody have an office in their house like DR.ABC. No, we don't all have this. So we have to have those conversations. And how do we work? And I remember there were parents who were sharing and buying devices for other people's children. That's a powerful thing. That's inclusion. That's using your power and your privilege and your access to make a change. That's maybe my magic question today, parents. How are you using your power, your position, your access, your privilege, the things that you own and have, and the beautiful life you live? How are you using that to ensure that you make your space, your school, your community, your world a better place for others? A lot of you give. Keep doing that. A lot of you share. Keep doing that. But I want you also to realize there are other ways to do it. So here comes my little tips for you that I know I want to leave with parents. So parents, please don't miss any of my tips. So here are my tips. I call this next steps at home. Okay, next steps at home, everybody. First one, we're going to engage in courageous conversations. We're going to affirm your children in who they are. Affirm them in who they are. We're going to talk about provide opportunities to learn about others. We're going to do as parents, we're going to speak about others with respect. We are going to seize opportunities to disrupt the bias and the assumptions and the stereotypes. And I'm going to tell you how in a minute. Don't you worry. We're going to also let home be a place of learning and unlearning. But I think you already got that one, because somebody talked about the learning and the relearning. So our first one, and B. Oh, I love this one. This is my favorite one, everybody. Be an inclusive role model. Whew, that's my best one. What would Jesus do, eh? Be an inclusive role model. How would you lead? So the first one, how do we engage in courageous conversations? It's not too early for them to learn. That difference exists. I can tell you a story, keep in. A little girl I know, very, very close to me, she ran home one day crying because a little boy in class says to her, she's racialized, she's Black, said, your skin is dirty. And she went home crying. Look at children maybe playing, so said nothing. The next day she went back to school. Little boy followed her on the playground and he kept saying to her, your skin is dirty. She was the only Black child in the class. And a lot of things happened, and he went to the principal and he went bubble up, bubble up, bubble up. And when it came to me, Carolyn, when it came to me, I asked the first question. I asked, where is a boy's parent? And I said, what is the conversation you are having at home about people who look like me? Black people. What is the conversation you're having at home with people who are maybe otherwise able? They're in a wheelchair, or they're blind, or they walk with a stick, or they are missing a limb. What are the conversations you are having with people who are about people who are different? What are the conversations you are having? That's what we're talking about. So when you hear people on the internet talking about courageous conversations, as a parent, you don't need to rush into this. You just need to start with your home and ask, how am I talking? When I see something on TV, how do I bring that to my child's attention? Can I tell you a sad story, G keeping? I'm gonna tell you a sad story because it's important. I was at a school once years ago, and I had one child in my class who was on the autism spectrum. One child. I want you to listen to me, parents, because I come at you hard because I care. I come at you hard because I want you to understand that we have to unlearn some of the things that we have done and do better. All of us have to grow. My hand goes up first, G keeping, because I have growth I need to do. I want to unlearn some stuff. I bet you the director Andrew will go up because he has stuff to unlearn and we will relearn. So watch this carefully. We all have. And so this particular parent was inviting the children in my class to a pool party. And let's say I had 36 children at the time. And this particular parent sent me 35 invitations. And her daughter gave out all the invitation. And the only person that did not get an invite was a child who was autistic. I know there may be a parent, there's 6 or 7 of us, that may say, well, it's their home, Mr. Campbell. It's their home. I respect that. But that's not the lesson we are teaching our children. We are teaching our children that one child gets to be uninvited or not invited because he's different. I took it to the office. If you know what I did, I went right to the principal's office to make a complaint about it because I would not allow it. I would not allow it. And you know what made me sad, Martina? It made me sad because I wondered if other parents heard this, what did they say to that parent? You know, when you say you're an ally and you're an advocate and you're an activist and you are inclusive, I don't want to hear a label, a title. I want to see your actions. So I want you to be mindful of these courageous conversations. The next one is affirm your children in who they are. Sorry, affirm your children in who they are. Spend that time to affirm them. Teach them that they are beautiful. Teach them that they are amazing. Teach them that they are just absolutely fabulous. I couldn't even find the word. I was going to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious because that's just my personality. Teach your children, affirm them. Parents, home is the first place for affirmation. No teacher should tell your child how amazing they are more than you. None, not even Mr. Campbell. And I tell them, you can't make Mr. Campbell tell your child they are amazing more than you. They are going to be a winner. They're going to be a star. They can do it. You have to affirm them. Home is where it's supposed to be. And I'm saying it because I know it's a fact. Because many of our children come to school, they struggle with self-esteem issues because there's a lack of affirmation in their home. I'm telling the truth. This is facts. I have my facts. I can tell you that. So I want you to make that place be. And as you affirm your children, I want you to affirm other people's children. I want you to affirm. I see Martina, thumbs up for that. Remember, you can give your thumbs up. You can do your love art. You can do all of that in the emoticon section. This is our chat. This is our chat. I wish everybody was here to talk with us. And those of you who listen to the recording, I know you're going to miss it because all the juicy stuff happened in the chat. All right. The next one, provide opportunities to learn about others. I want you to provide opportunities to learn about others. You know one of the first ways to do that? Ask yourself, what are the storybooks you're buying for your children? What are the storybooks? Are you buying storybooks that tell stories of other places? Can I tell you another sad story, Shelley? I'm going to tell a sad story, Jennifer. There's a particular school I worked with, and the principal was quite disappointed because there was a particular day that the French teacher was away, and then a substitute teacher came in. And it was a big discussion that for the children were saying for the first time, they knew that there were other countries that spoke French other than Paris and France and Quebec. And they couldn't believe that there were African nations that spoke French. They couldn't believe that there were other countries like Caribbean, like Haiti and French Guyana and other places, because they were not exposed. The learning opportunities were limited. You have to create opportunities to expose your children. When you go on vacation the next time, take them for a walk to the museum. When you go to the ROM and you go to the First Nation section of the museum, take good time to talk about First Nations communities, Indigenous people. Talk about them with respect and courage and love and power, not in deficit. So they understand how they respect others. It's your job to do that. It's your job, parents, to do that. The next one, speak about others with respect. Show the difference and let them know the difference exists. And say to them, well, your hair is gorgeous. And this is a Black girl, her hair is in a puff, too beautiful poof. Oh, her hair is gorgeous. And this little girl, she's wearing a hijab. She's covering her hair. And the same word gorgeous goes for all three little girls. You don't get to capitalize the word gorgeous for your child. I'm going to repeat that. You don't get to capitalize the word gorgeous for your child. You have to teach that respect for others. It's important. Inclusion begins at home. Here's the next one I love. Seize opportunities to disrupt the bias and the assumptions and the stereotypes. There's a book that I wanted to add to this picture, but I couldn't find it. There's a book that talks about Don't Yuck My Yum. Anybody have seen that book before? You know that book? It's a beautiful book. And I can tell you a story behind that, Martina. There was especially I know in many places, Asian population or Asian students, I know particularly in certain places where Asian children were teased because of their food and because of their cuisine. And so somebody wrote this beautiful book about respecting diversity. Yes, Shira, I think it's Siraz. Yes, is it Siraz? Yes, Sira, not. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for your comment in the box. And the book is a good book. I bought it. Don't Yuck My Yum. Such a beautiful book to teach children about loving each other and respecting each other and the difference. That one over there, I know some of these books, All Are Welcome. I have that book. As a matter of fact, I tell you something, Carlin, that book, All Are Welcome, last year, June, I was invited to a school and that was a book I read. Oh yes, that was a book I read online. All Are Welcome. That was a very book I bought and I read it online and we talk about differences. All are welcome. So you have to expose your child. Another story that I have to tell that my heart was warmed. I wish I was able to share those. I was in Quebec. I was in Montreal. Sorry, I was in Montreal earlier last year. I was in Montreal last year, and there was having the Barbie doll exhibition in Montreal. Barbie doll fashion exhibition. I think it was over 200 Barbie dolls. Over 200. Thank you, Martina, for sharing. The book is right there in the chat, everybody. Over 200 Barbie dolls were on display. And I walked into the room. Elizabeth, and my heart was warm. There were Barbie dolls of every single color, race, shape. Ooh, there were Barbie dolls who were at the Paralympics, Barbie dolls. There were Barbie dolls in a wheelchair. There were Barbie dolls who were in different parts of the continent. There are Barbie dolls who had missing a limb. They had Barbie dolls who were white, and Barbie dolls who had curly hair, and Barbie dolls with big poof Barbie dolls who were different sizes. They were Barbie dolls that you weren't even sure. You were unsure by just looking at the Barbie doll about their gender. They were Barbie dolls of all different shape and sizes. They were intentional about all of this. You have to grow and to realize the world is different. And of course, if you remember, there are persons who typed this in the box. You didn't see this coming, right? But I remember a number of persons typed this. You typed this. Didn't see this one coming. We have to learn, unlearn, and do some relearning. We have to do some learning, some unlearning, and some relearning. Be open to that. Today, I talked to a bunch of teachers about being open to learning and unlearning. And the last one I have for you as we close is be an inclusive role model. Be that role model. Be an inclusive role model. Teach your children from home about inclusion. Teach them about different people celebrating different things, different people eating different foods. People are different, and how we need to respect that. So when they come to school, they have come into the building with a sense of respect and admiration for others. Thank you so much for engaging. Thank you so much for listening. I know we have time for about 1 or 2 questions. I also see in the chat that Andrea has put in the chat in the box and in the link for you to sign up for the book. I see that the applause. I see the thank you. Thank you so much. I see the adulation. I see it. I receive it. I receive it. I receive it. And I do know we have 1 or 2 questions. We can get right into that. I'm going to remove the pin and I'm going to go back to the gallery view so we can see all of us there. If more of you want to come on screen, it's being recorded, so you don't have to come on screen because it's being recorded. But if you want to come on screen if you want. Come on, I see you, Lydia. Welcome, Jennifer. I see you, Lydia. I see you. I see you. I see you. Thank you so much for being here. I know this is an amazing event and we want to start this. I see you, Tania. I see you. Any question? I think, Martina, you have a question for me. I think we have about couple minutes before we close. Your mic is off, Martina.
Sorry about that. I keep forgetting. Okay, so our first question is, how can we talk to our kids about using their privileges and advantages to help raise others up and be an ally?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? You ask a question and you answer it. I love this kind of question. These are my favorite questions because the truth is, you're going to teach them how to raise each other up. So let me give you a simple one. Start with kindness. Start with kindness. Start with kindness, with sharing. If somebody, because what I love is that all the bad things that happen at school, I hope you realize the children go home and they tell their parents, Mom, something happened at school today. Johnny told Sarisa that whatever, or Peter told Anne-Marie whatever. And you use it and said, would you say that to Anne-Marie, Peter? And you said, and he doesn't answer. He said, no, you wouldn't, because it's not kind. So you have to have those conversations. Use those as case studies. Use those as case studies to have the conversation with your children. But more than anything else, and I have to go here, what are they seeing from you? What are they seeing from you? Dude, I've seen parents sit at Starbucks, this table, and I've overheard very, very disparaging conversation about somebody else. And the children are right there, listen to you, dogging and tearing down somebody because of a certain difference. They're going to hear you. They're going to hear you. You know, like I tell you, I gave you the story about my life, my time in Atlanta, but I can tell you for a fact that there are many stories like that where there are deficit conversations, where people wonder, does that person belong there? You know, I'm afraid of that person. Why are you afraid of that person? Why that person looks different? Why that person looks scary? Why is that scary? We hear kids say that person is scary. Why is he scary? Why? Ask yourself why. And I can tell you, You may be embarrassed as a parent if your child tells you the truth. You may be embarrassed. I have done this work for years. I have a children who said he's scared because he's Black, Mom. He's scared because he's wearing a certain kind of head covering. These are the language that they're having. How are you now reteaching that and unpacking that in the home? You have to have those conversations. You have to have those conversations. So start with the conversations. Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question, Martina. Martina, your mic is off again. Go ahead.
The next question we have is, do you have a reading list that parents can use as resources to further up on this presentation and conversation?
No, I don't have a list, but I know people with lists, and I actually could send you a list, Martina, that I've seen other board put together. Funny enough, there's a reading list that a teacher from Peel board put together with all these books. So I've seen those. But you know what I did? I'm going to share, and I'm going to answer your question again another way, because I also see from the chat. I think it's from I want to answer it. It's from Shelley. And Shelley, Tania, when your child is racialized and feeling isolated, aside from affirmations at home, how can you support them? So let me use, I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to use also the book example. So my niece moved to Alberta, from Toronto to Alberta, and she's in a school where she's maybe one racialized child. And so I sent her, Uncle Andrew sent her books. And what I did, I went inside the bookstore and I spent my time to find books with pictures of little Black amazing girls. And then you know what I did, Caroline? I came home and I went on my Amazon. I love Amazon. I don't know about you, but Amazon box at my door is everything. I love Amazon. When it comes to my door, my favorite person is Amazon delivery person. And I typed in books, little Black girls, and a ton of books came up. And I looked at them and I bought and read through and looked at them. So you have to be intentional about this search. You know, I know it's easy for me to give you a list, but I'm going to be very frank with you. I don't want to give you a list. I want you to be intentional at the bookstore. I want you to go to the Indigo bookstore. I want you to go online to Amazon. I want you to go to a place called A Different Book List. Anybody heard about that store? A Different Book List? You could Google it. It's called A Different Book List. And what I love about Amazon, if you type in, for instance, Don't Yuck My Yum, and you find that book, you'll see other related books. And you store up yourself. Be intentional. Let me give another example, Tania, and a parent who asked a question before we go. I have seen where a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm going to buy a Black Barbie doll because my Black child should get a Black Barbie doll. Or I'm going to buy an Asian Barbie doll for my Asian Black child. You know which parent I admire the most? I know a parent who is white. She's a friend of mine. You know what she bought? Our kids have Barbies. Our kids have tons of Barbies. And they have all kinds of Barbies. So the white parent went out and she bought Black Barbies, Asian Barbies. She bought all kinds of Barbies. And then she said to me, because it's a parent I know, she said something to me which has never left me. She said, Andrew, she called me by my name. She said, Andrew, I want my girls, she has 3 girls. I want my girls to, when they go outside, they are not surprised at differences. So you as a parent need to realize it's your role. You know, like I always tell people, I'm going to leave you with a beautiful one. Can you get this one? Black History Month is not for the Black children only. It's for all the children. Chinese New Year is not for the Chinese children in your class. It's for all of us to celebrate. Whatever we're celebrating, sometimes we have a particular group of people. It's for everyone. I'm gonna give you a final story because you know stories are important. I was at a school, Eugenia, and I've never been to a school before where I have so many kids who are Greek. I'm from Jamaica. I have no Greek friends. I have not fallen in love with anybody Greek yet. You know, I'm just a new teacher on the block. But my kids, most of my kids are Greek. And so I was told, Orthodox Greek, and so I was told by the school, because I was new to the school, that a particular day we're going to have a whole lot of absences because they are not coming to school because they're staying home, they're celebrating Orthodox Greek. So when I counted my class, I had 4 children left. 4. 4, Eugenia. So I'm going to show you what I did, Eugenia. So I'm in the class. I am Jamaican. I am Black. I am new. I am immigrant to this country. And I'm teaching this class, TDSB. My kids are gone. They are celebrating Greek holiday and they are at home. And I'm left in the school with 4 children. I know somebody said, yay, 4 kids. You get to just live your best teacher life that day, Eugenia. I did get to live my best teacher life that day. But you know what? I miss my kids. And I was curious, where are they and what are they doing? So when they came back to school the next day, I said to them, you all have to tell me all about your celebration. They looked at me, they were so excited. They started sharing about the food and about the Greek clothes that they wear. And they showed me pictures of what they wear, this white uniform, the white, clothes that they wear, and the food and the different Greek food. And I was like, oh, I am missing out on all of this. I said, Mr. Campbell needs to be a part. Mr. Campbell needs to learn this. Somebody has to teach me. And so, I was just share with them, and it went home. And the parents said to me, Mr. Campbell, you're one of the first person who is non-Greek, or we have Greek teachers who have ever been so interested in knowing it. The next year, I was at the school for 3 years. The next year, when it was holiday was coming out, the parent volunteered that when they come back to school afterwards, they're going to bring a potluck to school to share with the entire. And then one child, knowing Mr. Campbell loved fashion, he says to me, can we wear a Greek costume? And I said, absolutely. And the next day at school, we had an amazing day. Mr. Campbell got to learn about these children. And so it's important that we learn about each other. And they ask me questions about my life, and I get to share with them. So we have to spend quality time, listen to this carefully, building communication, building connection, building community. We have to close because we are past our time, but that is it. We have to spend quality time building connections, building communication, building community. And it goes by getting to know each other. I trust and hope that we'll have another opportunity to share like this. I'm excited, Mr. Director. Our director is with us. Mr. Director, I'm excited to talk to our parents. I think we need a part 2. And we think we need some more time to talk about other things. There's a topic I want to talk to you all about growing in cultural competence. We want to talk about holding a high expectation for all children. We have work to do. We have, as somebody said, we have learning, unlearning, and relearning to do. Thank you so much. Martina, over to you.
Oh my God, Dr. ABC, this has been awesome. I wish you could hear all the clapping. I feel like we should all go to a club and party together right now. It would be the best thing ever. Oh, that was fantastic. Honestly, I feel so, I don't know, I feel like I'm ready to create a movement of some sort. I think it was fantastic. I think I'm hoping everyone feels the same way. I think you touched on a lot of things that hit home for a lot of us. And it's in our hands to change the conversation at this point. So I want to thank you. I'm going to share my screen for everyone who's attended. Once again, we really, really appreciated you taking the time out this evening to, out of your busy lives. We know it can get crazy. So we want to thank you. Again, there's the link in the chat for those of you that want to receive a free copy of Dr. ABC's book, Teachable Moments with Dr. ABC, A Spoonful for the Journey. If you want to know more about Dr. ABC, you can visit his website, drabc.ca. And we are not through with you, Dr. ABC. We're going to definitely reconvene at some point next year. And I'm gonna invite everyone just to unmute if they'd like, just to say thank you and say good night. And I wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.